Welcome to another edition of Hardcore Wrestling 101, and we are at it again. I am joined by Mr.
Hardcore Christopher. What is up, everybody?
Okay, I am joined by Big Mouth.
Your brother's Big Mouth.
That is a good point. So, there's not a lot to go over this week, unless you got something that pops up before we end this recording, but
Okay.
I do want to talk about the end of Dynamite and a couple other things about it.
Okay.
Mainly, we got a new TV champion, Ring of Honor TV champion, in Samoa Joe.
Yeah, that was
And
spoiled. That was spoiled by your brother.
But still, I watched it. My God, that was brutal.
The crowd was chanting this was awesome. I didn't find it that awesome, really.
I think they were talking.
It was just a bunch of chops.
I think what they were talking about being awesome was the fact that they was laying them in there, and neither guy was budging.
I thought Sanjay was retired.
We will get to that in a minute. So, first off, I want your thoughts about Joe having the championship again outside of WWE.
Okay, I hate to ruin everybody's bubble, but I wasn't surprised by it.
I seen it coming.
I did too.
So, we have our first transitional champion under the Tony Khan era.
And it looks like Jay Lethal is gonna be the first person to lay claim to that title.
I don't want to say Joe's going to be another transitional champion, but with his new bodyguard,
Who was that big fella?
well, we're going to touch about on that now. But so the big guy is an India guy that going forward is going to be managed by Sanjay. And the whole idea of his debut on this week was, so I don't know if you know this, but Warner Media and Discover Plus are merging.
What's Discover Plus?
It's another, like a streaming app.
Oh.
And so they are in the process of, so apparently from what I get, Discover Plus has a big influence in India. So the whole point about debuting him this week was to kind of help with the mojo.
He didn't deliver that good of a clothesline, I didn't think.
Well, a lot of people are comparing him to the Great Khali.
Great Khali couldn't wrestle his way out of a wet paper bag.
And that's why he's being compared because of the size, the look, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go that far yet. I want to get a few glimpses of him in. His clothesline, like you said, wasn't that great, but maybe he was nervous. He was in front of a wrestling crowd for the first time ever.
But hasn't Sanjay been retired for years at this point?
That's why he's supposed to just be mainly a manager, from what I understand. It's going to be curious to see what they're going to name this faction.
Don't we have enough factions already, though? I mean, I don't mean to harp on this, but
Well, yes and no. I mean, remember back in the 90s and 80s, there was a faction on every block. Literally.
yes.
You had Cornette's people. You had Paul Dangerously, a.k.a. Heyman group. You had Jimmy Hart's group. You had Bobby the Brain Heenan.
You had the Heenan family. You had the first family.
You had Teddy Hart's groups. You had the Geniuses groups. So, yeah and no. Team Taz isn't doing a whole lot, but they did have a spotlight on Dynamite this last week to cost Keith Lee his first loss. Did you watch that? Well, he grabbed the leg. So, and then you got Jericho's New Society.
I still can't stand.
Then you
I
have.
still can't.
I don't think the Pinnacle is
What's
much
going
anymore.
on with Penta and the lawyer Alex with the whole like a coat robe and
Because he's using his Pentadolk Sona right now.
Look, I'm not gonna say Dynamite was bad by any
Oh,
stretch
it
of
wasn't
the
bad.
word.
It was just lukewarm.
It just felt like
It was not a pay-per-view caliber like they were trying to let people believe. That I can't agree with. But it wasn't the worst Dynamite we've ever had.
No.
The match's quality was great. A problem is when you're on a televised show like this, the interviews goes with it. And they tried to cut...
And the interviews take forever.
But it goes with a 2-hour Dynamite or a 2-hour Monday Night Raw.
Well,
in this case, 3 hours.
Well, yes.
But unfortunately, they tried to wiggle most of them out last night.
But if you're part of the live crowd, not only do you have to sit through Dynamite, but you would also have to sit through the
Not this week, you didn't.
Oh,
Rampage is live this week.
Oh.
This is being built as championship week for AEW. So let's talk a little bit about championship week. Let's talk a little bit about at least the one I know for Rampage coming up. The Battle of the Atoms 2.
I'm sorry, but Adam Hangman Page just isn't doing it for me as world champion.
I don't think
Omega felt... I'm not a big Kenny Omega fan, but Omega felt more like a world champion.
I hate to say this, even though I don't see it happening, they need to get that title off of him fast. And I would do it.
But isn't this the second Texas death match in like 6 months?
Yeah, and that's the thing with Adam's run. They want to give us the hardcore style of champion. Because he had the death match with
Archer.
Archer, well, he looked like he was terrified of the match. And now he chose that match?
Okay, I'm just going to say this. Adam Hangman Page is a great wrestler, no doubt about it.
I think the only reason he had the belt now was because he was super over.
But he's not doing it for me as world champion. He doesn't feel like a world champion.
And I don't necessarily think he's as over as he once was.
I mean, yes, he was there from the beginning, but you have people like Danielson and Punk.
Punk is in line coming up for a title shot. And so if they don't want to tone Punk, and if they don't want to tone the Cowboy, they need to put the title on Adam Cole on Friday night.
Which would make sense, but I hate to say this, I don't see the title switching.
Because if Punk goes bad, he's going to have his own faction. There's no doubt.
Well, even Edge right now is starting to make his own faction.
WWE finally realized that factions might be the route to go.
Which, to be quite honest, I think Edge's faction is going to be better than the House of Black, in my opinion.
The Pinnacle is dead. Besides MJF and Sean Spears, FTR are now good guys. They have been for a while now.
When did... Oh, that must have happened.
It's just a gradual thing that took place over a span of 4 or 5 weeks. It was basically a crowd decision.
And...
So the Pentagon's dead. So that group is no more.
I didn't think Wardlow made that big of an impact when he interfered like he did with Sean Spears last week.
He was more of a distraction. Because MJF, and then I thought that was a cute move where the referee got to 9, and then
I'll triple it.
I triple
10.
it, and then he thought about it though. He thought about it, and then he goes 10. He definitely thought about it. So let's touch on. We touched on the one. I know there was probably more.
Where do you think Hook's gonna go from here?
He gets his Dynamite debut next week.
He said nothing.
He doesn't. That's his gimmick. He does not say. But it looked like this week he was going to say something.
Instead, he got interrupted by...
Because he actually turned his head to the interview lady this time. And it looked like he was getting ready to move his mouth.
And then got interrupted by Tony Nese and... whoever the lawyer...
The lawyer guy.
Yeah.
So, Hook is going to be a dominant force for years to come. If he doesn't get injured. That.
Well, just like his dad. His dad was a dominant force.
So let's touch on Nyla Rose versus Thunder Rosa. I don't see a title change. She just won that belt.
I'm sorry. I think the Native Beast for me isn't. She's good. I will say this. She is good. I'm tired of Vicky. I am very tired of
the
Vicky.
whole reason Vicky's there is because Nia isn't that good on the mic.
True. But neither was Brock Lesnar until Brock Lesnar got personality.
And that's the whole point we have so many factions. A lot of AEW is up and comers. Are people that started on the indies who you didn't have to talk.
If you ask me, Wheeler Yuta isn't that good on the stick either.
And that might be why he's with a group now that has William Regal as your mouthpiece.
By the way, what's up with Danhausen? I mean, I saw a snippet of AEW, and it was right after Hook and Tony Nese got interrupted, and it looked like he ran into a wall.
I'll have to rewatch. I didn't catch that. And I watched the whole show.
Oh, boy.
So, let's talk on Battle of the Belts, too.
But I will say this. I thought the whole cake thing... I don't know about you, but I saw that backfiring as soon as I saw the cake.
It happens every time someone brings a cake. Someone goes through it.
Uh-huh.
Usually it's the one that brings us, and so they all keep it with tradition at least. So let's talk about Battle of the Belts before we talk about the final note piece I want to touch on.
Okay.
So I know of at least 2 championship matches on that night. I can't remember if the Nia and Thunder is on the Rampage or if it's on Battle of the Belts as well.
I think it's on Battle of the Belts.
But let's talk first about the TNT Championship, which is...
It's Scorpio
versus Sammy Guevara.
I don't see Sammy winning it. Scorpio just won that.
But how much longer can Scorpio go without a loss? It's over a year now.
I didn't realize it's been that long.
Yeah, they made a big deal about it being a year. Poor Scorpio should have won that belt 6-7 months ago. That way they could have a decent run without stretching that too far. But I agree. I don't see a title change unless Tony wants to go with a shock change.
I think we touched on it. I don't see...
We've already had one title change this week.
Yeah.
Do we see another? Is what we got to ask ourselves.
I think one title change is enough for this week. Even though it was expected as... Because there was no...
Well, next week is going to be an interesting conversation for us. Discussing all these title matches besides Joe, since we've already touched on that. So, let's touch on the Ring of Honor World title. I'm actually excited about this one. Not because of who's in it, but for the fact that we're going to have a World Championship for the first time on the AEW show. So, the champion, Jonathan Gresham, known as the Octopus, is going against Dalton Castle, a former 2-time champion. Well, at least 1 time.
Who?
Dalton Castle, the one that comes out with his boys.
I've never heard of him.
Well, he comes out with basically these wings type things that kind of make him look like a peacock. And he comes out with his boys. Or now I think they are known as his chicks.
Oh, okay.
Not chicks as women, but chickens.
Oh, okay.
At least that's what they were called at Super Card of Honor. He's a heck of a talent. I honestly didn't know.
I don't see Jonathan Gresham losing.
Well, we will get to that in a minute. I was shocked about who was challenging because I didn't honestly think that Tony Khan would want to keep him around. Apparently, I was wrong. So, I agree. I don't see him dropping that. I mean, he just unified the belt.
Why is Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm having backstage promos with each other?
Because they are in the opening round of Owen Cup. I disagree with that call. I think if them two should have fought in the finals.
But
So
Owen
far-
Hart had nothing to do with women's wrestling.
We don't know that. We don't know what he did in Canada.
He was part of his dad's Stampede promotion.
Maybe he helped book women. Well, I don't know. But think about it. If they would have just did a men's tournament for Owen Hart, the internet would have blew up saying that he was racist against women or biased against women.
You can't use that argument, though.
But I guarantee you it would have happened.
I can also guarantee you that it would happen too, but let's move on.
Okay, so yeah, we touched on everything I had. What do you have anything you need or want to
Okay.
do a quick overview on?
Let's talk about Tammy Sitch, aka Sunny. Normally I don't do this because I don't dive into people's personal problems or lives, but you need to get your ducks in a row.
The only thing I'm going to say until that report comes out,
Which we're still waiting for, by the way.
but when that report comes out, I agree with you. If it comes back that she was high or drunk, then yes, by all means, throw the book at her. Like
It's
you said.
it's still manslaughter. She was involved in a fatal crash.
If it was an accident crash, it won't be considered manslaughter. It will be considered a fatal crash. Just that. Accidents on the highway happens all the time.
True.
But if that blood work comes back that says she was over the legal limit to be driving, especially when she has a device in her car that she's supposed to blow in before she even tries to start her car,
And if she didn't use it,
then she will go, and it will probably be more than manslaughter. No, I think manslaughter will have to be the route because it's not like she went out of her way to kill someone.
No.
That's what.
and usually I'd say take the Hulk Hogan route. Because WWE took Hogan out of the Hall of Fame.
I think WWE realized that they've been jumping the gun way too much. They want to make sure when they remove her from the Hall of Fame that they have all their ducks in a line, so, as you put it.
Where?
Because they just fired someone that I think they jumped the gun on.
Yes.
In Matt Castle or Matt...
Nash Carter.
Yeah, Nash Carter. And there apparently was a lot of people in NXT in the backstage the following week that wouldn't even look at the management because they did their job and they wouldn't say two words to Vince or anyone else.
How do you feel about Triple H not getting his last hurrah, his proper retirement?
Well, I will say this, and then we're going to have to call it because I got to be somewhere by 11:30. I didn't know this, or I would have came deal.
Okay.
It sucks to know that his last match wasn't a send-off match for him. That's just a blink as I can put it. I feel sorry for Triple H, but Triple H has said himself.
He's done.
He goes, I had a hell of a run. He goes, would I like to actually have an official retirement match? Who wouldn't? He said, but I cannot.
And it's just one of these things that he didn't know that he had until...
If he didn't come out and say he was flat out done, then they've probably been able to pull off something like the cinematic matches, have someone do all the spots for him. But since he actually came out, but I think Triple H was one of the points he goes, I don't want that type of match for a final match. I want it to be actually me, so he's okay with the what he got.
Okay.
With that being said, we're going to end it this week a little premature. Like I said, I would have left the house earlier if I realized I needed to be somewhere to get someone at 11:30.
I'm Hardcore Christopher. He's Hardcore Wrestling 101.
And we will see you next week. We're going to start doing these on a weekly basis.
Yes.
Thursday. Unless something happens before a doctor appointment for either one of my kids or my wife or Chris has a doctor's appointment or something like that. So, till we meet again, we will see you next week.
Keep it hardcore, everyone.
Cheers.